Welcome back to the Kelly Roach Show. Today, we are going to talk about how to do an effective and constructive cost reduction in your business. And this is a skill that you are going to need to develop if you haven't already. And this is something that most business leaders absolutely get wrong. And it takes a business from a situation where it may have had a little dip for a month or two, and it turns it into sometimes years of struggle because they make cuts the wrong way and too deep, and it actually prevents their business from growing. Now, I know that everyone has the same things on their mind right now, and that is the business climate is rough and the economy is contracting. And even if you are winning right now, we have some of my companies that are winning and doing really well right now, but the truth of the matter is it is hard, and we have to be in very laser precise focused action every single day in order to create those results. So regardless of whether your business had an amazing start to the year or maybe you had a rough start to the year, this episode is for you because learning how to do expansion versus contraction leadership is par for the course. And it's a really important part of becoming a great leader or a great CEO. The truth is you are going to lead through all climates, and you want to learn how to maintain the ability to make decisions strategically while navigating rough waters so that you can make it safely to shore. And, I experienced this. Obviously, I came from the Fortune 500 world, and I experienced many times very dramatic cuts that came from the top that weren't necessarily actually good for the growth of the company. And so I made it a point to really learn how to do this process kind of in a surgeon-like manner in my own business. And being able to do this over the years through expansion and contraction has been key to our ability to keep growing regardless of the economy. And, sometimes when people wait too long to do cuts in their business, they end up having to make cuts that are far more dramatic than they would have had to been, which is what we don't want. And sometimes people make cuts too aggressively, too quickly because they panic, and that is not what we want. But instead, we want you to be able to kind of read the room, know where you are in the cycle, and make cuts in enough time to protect the team that you have, to protect the cash that you have, and to be able to navigate some months of disruption ahead. From my vantage point, I can tell you what I'm expecting is that the climate will get harder and that there will be more disruption, especially between now and the end of the year. So across all of my companies, we are in battle mode, and we are also in preparation mode. And that means we are doing expense reductions in certain areas, even while we are doing expansion of staff and expansion of advertising in others. So today I'm going to talk to you kind of about some do's and some don'ts when it comes to doing a cost reduction effectively to protect your company and to also ensure that you don't stifle the future growth of the organization. So let's get to it. Let's start off with the don'ts. These are the big three when it comes to don'ts. Typically, when people get a little bit panicked or they see that they're having a rough week, a rough month, a rough quarter, the first thing is they slash their people, they slash their marketing budget, and they cut their coaching or mentorship, whether it's for themselves or for the team. And I always say that these are the big three that you want to protect at all costs. Now, that doesn't mean that when you're doing a cost reduction that you may not maneuver or adjust these a little bit. I'll talk about that as we go through the episode today, but you want to do anything you can do to not cut in these areas unless absolutely necessary, because these are the three areas that when you cut today, you stifle growth tomorrow. And the goal of doing a cost reduction effectively is to make cuts in areas that are actually not going to prevent your own business recovery and stand in the way of future growth. So the big three that you're working to try and protect are team, marketing, and mentorship. Those are the big three. And I can tell you for us that we are cutting in a lot of areas right now while we're investing in other areas. The three that we're investing in are continuing to be people, advertising, and mentorship. I actually just invested in 2 different coaching programs for my team, because we know that with the critical nature of what is to come, we have to actually sharpen our skill set, sharpen our approach to the market, and invest in our people and in ourselves. And so I think that's a really short-sighted decision that I see a lot of people making as soon as they start struggling. They want to either cut their coaching or their mentorship or the investments that they're making for their team. And the problem with that is it's going to get harder, not easier. And that's the time when you need that support more than ever. Now, let's talk about some do's, right? Number 1, you want to look for redundancies in the business. A lot of times there are redundancies in 2 or 3 core places. Number 1, technology. And I know for us, we are slashing tens of thousands of dollars in overlapping and redundant technology and tools, subscriptions, and services that we are not fully utilizing. So in most businesses, what happens is you invest in one tool for one reason, and they have all of these other benefits and mechanisms and resources and capabilities. And then you invest in a totally different tool for another reason. They have all these benefits, resources, capabilities, and you keep investing and investing and investing. And at the end of the day, you're investing in 5 or 6 different tools, most of which have overlapping capabilities. And this can add up to tens of thousands of dollars in your business. So the first thing that you really want to focus on is identifying redundancies that are not necessary. Now, from a staffing perspective, redundancy is good, right? When we look at building our teams, we want redundancy on the team. When we look at expenses, redundancies are bad. So I just want to make that clarifying point. So that's the first thing that you're looking for. The second thing is you're looking for non-essentials. Any non-essential that you can cut that is not going to stand in the way of future growth. These are those nice to have things that layer upon layer upon layer and keep getting added to the business in a growing economy. Many of you have many nice to have expenses, nice to have tools, nice to have extras that you've been investing in for the business that are just not going to be essential to navigating the storm ahead. And so now is the time to go and find those things and eliminate them. The third big one is renegotiating with big vendors. And I'll give a great example, and I'm not going to name names, but we had a company totally try to take advantage of us. It was a company that we have been using for years for our contracts, digital contracts. And they tried to come to us and charge us $9,000 for our renewal of our subscription. I don't know if they're just not doing well and they wanted to, pass that on to their loyal customers or what the deal was, but they dramatically increased what they were charging and dramatically overcharged for what they were offering. And so we tried to negotiate with them. We attempted a negotiation. They were not willing to negotiate. And so we left them completely, and we actually saved thousands of dollars on a very simple technology, a very simple tool that we were being massively overcharged for. And they were not willing to negotiate, and so we left. And this is one of the things that you have to realize with the bigger vendors that you're working with, whether it's a CRM, whether it is document storage, whether it is contracts, maybe it's, some type of tech that layers in with your CRM, right? Everything is negotiable. And if they're not willing to negotiate, I guarantee that there is a coinciding complementary competitor that would be more than happy to do that. And what you have to remember in this market is that most businesses are going to grow by taking market share from their competitors. So if you have a tool, a technology, a service provider, a resource that you've been using that you feel is overcharging or not delivering or is not able to provide the support that is needed, you can definitely go to them and negotiate, especially these bigger companies, right? Smaller businesses, there's a lot less fat on the bone. Smaller businesses are, their capacity matters. And so you may not have room to negotiate with them. Bigger companies, absolutely. I will give another example right now. Our CRM, in 5 of my companies, we are using a CRM that costs us less than $300 a month. In one of my companies, we are using a CRM that costs us over $5,000 a month. You better believe that we will be renegotiating that. And if they're not willing to renegotiate, we will be leaving. They've gotten so bloated in how they're charging us and what they're charging us. And they are a large organization that certainly has the fat to cut, that certainly can negotiate. But we're going to see how that works out. But I can tell you, we're going to be going and renegotiating. And this is why I'm saying to you, you have to, and this is one of the other do's that I'm going to give you, is that you have to do cost comparisons. So many times you come up for renewal or you come up to re-sign with a tool or a technology or a vendor or whatever the case, and you feel like you're between a rock and a hard place because you feel like you need that service in the business and what they're charging isn't right or isn't fair or isn't needed, but you don't know what your options are. This is a market where you have to go out and find out what your options are, because every single thing that you are overpaying for is dollars that you're taking away from the crucial things in your business that are going to get you through this, which is people, advertising, and mentorship. And so every dollar that you're spending on something outside of that is taking away from you investing in the things that are actually going to be crucial to navigating what is ahead. Okay, so look for redundancies, especially in technology and tools. Renegotiate wherever possible. Shop the market and gain clarity on where there actually is viable competitors at a variable price point. I'll use the example that I just gave about the vendor that wanted to charge us $9,000 for our contract tool. We could replace that, I think, for like about $1,000. So that's an $8,000 difference just by being aware of solutions in the market. Of course, we gave them first opportunity to negotiate. They didn't want to. And so we decided to make the choice to leave. But these are the things that you have to get good at as a business leader, because that is the difference between you being able to maybe advertise that month or float payroll that month or be able to pay your coaching or whatever the case. So I think that's really, really important. The other thing is just revisiting tech and tools and apps and subscriptions that you're not fully using. Now, you may not want to revisit them to cancel them. You may need to revisit them to figure out how you can actually fully utilize them to get the value that you initially invested in. Many times when you invest in coaching, mentorship, a course, whatever, you're super gung-ho, you're super excited in the beginning, and then you lose some steam. And if you don't fully utilize the thing that you invested in, you're going to see it as an expense instead of seeing it as an investment, right? It's getting a return. And that's the difference between money coming out of your pocket versus money going into your pocket. So I would definitely revisit the things that you've already invested in. And I would look at where are those opportunities to really fully maximize those things that you have already invested in. I know for us, we're going back through some of the trainings that we recently invested in. We're having follow-up discussions on the coaching program that we just invested in. Another program that we recently invested in, we're actually having the one leader that we put into that training train the other leaders in the company on what they learned so that we can disperse that mentorship and coaching. So just revisiting those investments and really maximizing ROI, because as I said, you may have signed up for it 6 months ago. You're still paying for it, but you're not fully utilizing it. Well, you need to go back to, okay, right now this is money out of my pocket. What do I need to do to make this money back in my pocket? And then again, of course, cost comparisons. Cost comparisons are huge, and getting to know what other tools are available in the market. So many times we're just so busy. We have so much going on. We may think we're getting the best price, or we may think we have the best resource on the market. We may think we have the best tool when in reality, we just haven't gotten to know what else is available. And this is crucial. The other thing to remind you of is that new things are popping up that are very affordable solutions every single day. So you just may simply not be aware of a tool that has been made available or a resource that's been made available that could make all the difference for you in getting those results that you're looking for at a more reasonable price. I want to talk a little bit about team. And there's a reason why I said, there's the big three that you're trying not to cut. Now, if you have non-essential team members that are not doing roles that are associated with bringing profit to the bottom line, you need to do one of two things. You need to A, figure out how you're going to monetize their role and what you are going to do to support them to be able to contribute to the profit in a meaningful way, or you most likely are going to get yourself in a position where you are not going to be able to keep their role on staff in the company. It's just where the market is going. And this is why when you think about the employer-employee relationship, it is so important to understand that the purpose of hiring employees is to drive profitable growth and expansion for the organization. So many people, when they get into team building, forget that that is the only viable and sustainable way to maintain staff. So if you have people that you've hired that you've forgotten what the purpose of the employer-employer relationship is and how to make it function sustainably, and that's gotten out of whack, that's not good for them because now they don't have a stable job environment, and that's not good for you because you're not going to be able to carry them and float them. So I always say that when we go into market conditions like the ones that we're in now and the ones that we're moving into, pliability and patience are more important than ever. And what you're going to have to do with all of your staff is really feel through who do you have on the team that is flexible, pliable, willing to go all in, and able to learn the skill sets of today to be able to contribute to the bottom line, and who are the people that are not. Some people are not going to be willing. Some people are not going to be able. And that's when you're going to have to make decisions about what you're going to do with their role next. On one hand, your objective is to try and retain as much of your staff as humanly possible. But on the other hand, you will have to reframe many of the roles in your company and make sure that they're aligned with profit producing tasks and ownership within the company. And you may need to actually mold and change roles in the business to be more supportive to the environment that we're operating in. On the other hand, I find that a lot of people have redundancies that are not actually necessities or productive redundancies, especially with contractors. And a lot of you have many different contractors doing many different things, lots of hands in the pot, no ownership, and this is not helpful, right? So in that case, you do need to look at where consolidations make sense, who is going to be willing and able to take actual ownership of the responsibilities that you need covered, and who has the pliability, the willingness, and the capability to drive profits in the company. Now, the other thing that is a big risk in an environment like this, if you have contractors, is that legally you cannot manage them the way you manage an employee. And so for those of you that are listening to this, it's really important that you're consulting with your legal team, with your advisors in that realm. Obviously, that is not me, on what you're going to do with these roles. Because on one hand, you need your staff to be profitable and productive. And on the other hand, if you are managing a contractor, you are not legally able to manage them. You are not legally able to dictate what they do, when they do it, how they do it. They are their own business. And so it's really important to take a look at that. So many people think it is more risky to have contractors, when in fact, it's actually far more risky to have contractors than it is to have employees, because for that reason, especially in an environment like this, you have absolutely zero control over what they do, when they do it, how they do it. You can't dictate anything. And so that kind of leaves them to their own devices and makes it very difficult for you to create a unified focus in the company. So those are things to seriously look at. On the marketing side, obviously this is one of the first things that most companies slash when the economy takes a downturn. I encourage you to resist this as much as possible. It doesn't mean that you don't maybe look at where you're spending and how you're spending and be more strategic. I mean, what I'll tell you is that in your launches that you're doing and in your sales that you're doing for the today, so much more of that is going to be coming from organic than ads anyway. But the problem is that your ads of today become your sales of tomorrow. So again, if you slice your ads too much, you're compromising your tomorrow. So I think you can be careful. I think you can be smart. I think that you can trim back a little bit, but certainly don't take yourself out of the game, because even if you're able to get through the near term with organic, it could put you in a world of hurt in the long term, because as I mentioned already, your ads of today become your sales of tomorrow. So just really think about that. And then I talked about this earlier, but I'll just bring it back full circle again. Many times when people get overwhelmed or panicked or frustrated during a hard market, the first thing that they want to do is quit their coaching. They want to quit their mentorship. They want to relieve the pressure of the bill. And it's like the stupidest thing you could possibly do, right? Because I know, watching over the last 10 years of coaching and consulting people, that that's the exact moment where you need that support system more than anything. That's the exact moment where you need the coaching, the feedback, and the direction more than anything. So what I tell people to do instead is, instead of cutting your coaching, instead of cutting your mentorship or whatever investment you've made in yourself and in your team's development, go in the opposite direction and say, okay, how do I triple down on actually using the program so that instead of it being money out of my pocket, it's money into my pocket each month? And that takes more work and more concentration, but it's going to have a far larger reward, a far larger ROI for you, because one cuts the pressure in the short term, but takes you out of the game. The other keeps the pressure high, but allows you to focus on the big up level, which is going to serve you now and into the future. So I would recommend that you be in a market like this, looking at your expenses every single week, if not every single day, making sure that you're allocating your funds towards the things that are going to have the biggest payoff and the most meaningful impact on growth. And the biggest thing that is going to make a difference is making sure that you and the team change your behavior, unify your focus, really go all in on daily execution, putting lines in the water, being aggressive in the market, being fully present, being grounded, making sure that consistency and frequency are leading the way with everything that you're doing, and you will win. I want to remind everyone that millionaires are made during economic downturns. And so you have to ask the question, why not you? Thank you so much for tuning into the show today. And I would be so grateful if you would leave a review. If you listened to this show today and it gave you any value at all, leave a review so that other people that could use this information to set their businesses up for success as we progress forward get access to this information. Thank you so much for being a listener of the Kelly Roach Show. I appreciate every single one of you, and I'll see you back here soon.